Hello. There. Yeah. Worked.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody.
Bang bang.
Vote bang or vote dang to go out with a bang.
Vote bang. Bang. Vote blue if you want it to be true. Vote rise if you want the prize.
Oh, that's good.
What else?
That's good.
What's
I
your
don't know.
guys' punch?
Oh, together we rise, together we thrive. Mohammed, I'm your biggest fan. I love you too. Thank you, Habibi.
I'm ready.
So for this, okay, yeah. It says.
Why is there no? There's nothing to hold.
That's fucked
I'm
up.
just letting them get
Sabotaging as
situated.
a candidate. Yeah.
Alright, we're good.
Hello, are we ready? You guys good?
Are we?
Yeah.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's debate. It's Wednesday, March 20th, and this is the Associated Students election debate for the position of Executive Vice President. And today we have Joey Salvale from the Blueprint Slate. And Tajuddin Kamal Henry from the Rise SDSU
Great
Slate.
pronunciation. Thank you.
So before we get started, here's going to be some ground rules. First, during the debate, please be respectful by speaking during your turn. Respect the time limits that we're going to set forth. And when you only have a minute left, we're going to be rising up this piece of paper just so you guys know that your time's running out. Do you guys have any questions?
No, ma'am.
No? All good?
No.
Okay. So to open, you guys are each going to have a minute for your opening statement. And when you have 30 seconds left, I'll raise the time card.
Thank you.
Are you guys ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's start with Tajuddin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tajuddin Kamal Henry, pronouns he, him, his, and I'm majoring in public health and African American studies. I'd like to acknowledge the Kumeyaay land we are hosting these debates on and thank the Daily Aztec for preparing and hosting it. I'd also like to wish everyone in attendance a happy Women's History Month, a Ramadan Kareem, a Disability Celebration Month, and Irish American Heritage Month. I'm running to be your next vice president and revolutionize the way students interact with Associated students and the way Associated students interact with all students. I have continuously advocated for students since enrolling at San Diego State and aim to continue to do so through this position. We need to better support new students, whether that be freshmen, transfer, or grad students, along with incentivized involvement in student government. I plan to increase the accessibility and awareness of resources for students and student organizations, along with establish effective channels of communication within the university for university leadership and administration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and then for our next statement from Joey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joey Salvale. I'd first like to thank Tosh for being here, the Daily Aztec for hosting this, everyone who came to attend. Also, I'd like to acknowledge we're standing on Kumeyaay land, and it's also Women's History Month.
Woo!
So yeah, I'm running for Executive Vice President. My current leadership roles on campus include A-Sub, VP of Social for Rhoda, and what Executive Vice President entails is it's all student life outside of the classroom. So this includes homecoming, Greenfest, sports games, all that fun stuff. So once again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're gonna start with the questions. These are gonna be for both, and you each have 2 minutes. I'm gonna start off with you, Tajuddin. So what inspired you to run for Executive Vice President? And your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you. I decided to run for the position of Executive Vice President because I am passionate about serving our student community, and I believe that I have the vision and leadership skills necessary to bring about meaningful change. my experiences as an active member of various student organizations, such as the Black Resource Center, my chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, my efforts in reestablishing the NAACP on campus, along with being a leadership minor ambassador and residential advisor, along with other continuous involvements during my time here, have shown me the potential that we have as students to enhance campus life when we work collaboratively towards shared goals. I want to ensure that every student's voice is heard and that our actions reflect the diverse needs of our community. And I believe that this is not only the best position by which to change how students are allowed to represent themselves in front of university administration, but that I have the passion and skills to be the best candidate for this position. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the same question goes to you, Joey.
So what inspired me to run for this role? So coming to SDSU, it's such a large campus. There's so many moving parts. It moves so quick. I really couldn't find my group of people my first semester of freshman year, and I felt really lost. I felt small. I didn't know where to go in this campus. So I ended up joining Fly, led by Austin Barber. Shout out Philip, he leads it now. But through this, I joined Rotaract, and then now I'm in AS, a part of A-Sub. And through all these involvements on campus, I've met so many amazing people. I've met my sub-communities, and this is what has brought me to run for this position. So Executive Vice President, like I said, it's in charge of all campus life. I want to make sure that all students on campus feel a sense of community, they feel heard, they know where to go if they need anything, and that is why I'm running for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Our next question is going to be, transparency and accountability are important aspects of leadership. How do you plan to keep the student body informed about your progress and decisions as Executive Vice President, and how will you ensure that you remain accountable to their needs and concerns? And this time we'll be starting with Joey.
So this all comes down to having the conversations with students. We can promote as much as we want on social media, through Canvas, through Gmail, but 90% of that, I'm sure as all of you know, goes unheard, it goes unseen. So what I want to do is actually hold conversations with students, do monthly walkarounds to different organizations, push all the initiatives that we have, Your Voice Matters, all these good things that SDSU has to offer, and just make sure every student knows that I am here for them, and that AS executive officers, our role is not to sit in an office and think we're better than you, think we're higher than you. Our role is to bridge that gap between the student body and administration. And that's exactly what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, so the question was, transparency and accountability are important aspects of leadership. How do you plan to keep the student body informed about your progress and decisions as Executive Vice President? And how will you ensure that you remain accountable to their needs and concerns? And you have 2 minutes.
I will answer the question as it was given. The first thing I can do to remain accountable in my decision making and in how I represent the student body is by allowing myself to be accessible to them. I don't need to just go to these communities, walk around, say hi, and have them forget about me. There needs to be intentional spaces of dialogue and communication where they can reach not only myself, but Christina Brown, the Executive Director of Associated Students, my other execs. Every single commissioner needs to be accessible to students. And while we might feel that these spaces are open for students to come to, they are not. They feel closed off. There are bubbles and echo chambers of same opinions to be shared over and over again. We need to ensure that there are delegates from different student organizations and groups that are being invited and welcomed into these spaces in order to voice their opinions and ensure that their awareness of what we are here to do as Associated Students Executives, to be their mouthpiece to the university administration, is held onto over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay. The next question is, leadership transitions within student government can sometimes disrupt continuity. How do you plan to ensure the sustainability of your initiatives beyond your tenure as Executive Vice President? Joey, I'll start with you, and your time starts now.
Could you repeat that question one more time? Your mic kind of cut out.
Sure. Leadership transitions within student government can sometimes disrupt continuity. How do you plan to ensure the sustainability of your initiatives beyond your tenure as Executive Vice President?
Thank you. So a big part of this is it comes down to when you're transitioning from officer to officer, explaining what, if I win this role, what I've used my year term to do, the initiatives I've really pushed for, the progress we've seen, explaining that to whoever's taking over my role and explaining, okay, this is what I've done that has been successful, explaining my mistakes, explaining what I could have done better, and explaining what really worked, so that when they come into this position, they feel confident that they can continue whatever I've been pushing for. I mean, if I were to take over executive vice president and whoever holds it now didn't explain what's been going on, there's gonna be just a huge disconnect. There's gonna be no continuing of the initiatives, so that's how I would continue that. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you for your response, Tajuddin. The question goes, leadership transitions within student government can sometimes disrupt continuity. How do you plan to ensure the sustainability of your initiatives beyond your tenure as vice president? Your 2 minutes start now.
My proposed initiatives, which have to deal with freshman or new student programming, so freshmen, transfer, and grad students, as I said earlier, along with the incentivization of AS involvement and the creation of a community panel in adjacency to the to UC in order to best have student voices heard, are all part of the problem in AS, or addressing the problem in AS right now, which is culture. These things, if implemented, will persist by me by the simple fact that they will be introduced to new students. That will simply be how they know AS. You cannot strip that away with a mere change of positions. I want to change how people operate and approach these systems, and as such, by implementing them, there will be no choice but for my successor to adapt to them and learn them as the next person coming up. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with how the system is treating students. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question will be, what personal qualities or skills do you possess that you believe make you well suited for the role of executive vice president? And how will you leverage these qualities to serve the student body? And we'll start with Tajuddin.
My personal qualifications for the position include a multitude of leadership positions on campus. I've served as a flexi and on 5 AS councils. I currently sit as the vice chair of Lobby Corps. I mentioned some of my earlier involvements, but I would say that my biggest qualification for this position would be that I care. I would not be here before you today making empty promises for the student body. The thing that matters the most to me and why I believe people should vote for me is because I deeply care about students. I wrote a 7-page proposal to the university to address food and housing insecurity in order to better repurpose our housing tuition in my own free time this summer. In addition, I've dedicated countless hours to volunteering in the union, in the food pantry, and on other campus initiatives, along with working as a RA. I remain dedicated to the student body, and I believe that this continued dedication and being beholden to my word and my promises that I've made will continue if I were to be elected as executive vice president. Thank you.
Thank you. And go ahead, Joey. Did you want me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
So, one of the main roles of executive vice president is recruitment into AS. So, obviously, all of AS has these initiatives. We have all these things we want to do, but it's hard to get all these things done when we don't have the common student involved in AS, when we don't have freshmen involved. Not every voice is heard. So one trait that makes me very, very qualified for this role is I'm extremely, extremely outgoing, and I'm very caring. I will make sure that every freshman, every transfer student at orientation knows that I am there for them, knows that their voice can be heard, and putting myself out there, making myself vulnerable for all of these other students will help attract so many more students into AS. It'll create that pipeline between the general student body and AS and make that change that all of us want to see, where AS reflects more of the general student instead of what it does now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next question. Is it good? Okay. How do you intend to ensure that the voices and concerns of the student body are effectively represented and addressed in your role? Joey, we'll start with you, and your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you for that question. So, making sure that all students' voices are heard, this is a very hard problem to solve. It's something that AS has been trying to solve for a long, long time. We've also obviously made great steps compared to a couple of years ago. I mean, the Your Voice Matters campaign, that's something that has really, really helped the general students. Pushing that more, and And like I said before, utilizing orientation, I wish I could stand up here and say, oh, I'm going to make every single student's voice heard in 3 months. But realistically, that's very, very hard to do, almost impossible. But one thing I do want to do is I want to utilize orientation, make sure every student knows that all of these initiatives are out there, all these different resources that SDSU has are out there, and lay the foundation, lay the precedent for whoever takes over my role next year and the next exec board to come in and just build off of that and build off of that until hopefully in a couple years, this issue is not something that we have to deal with anymore. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Hello? Hello? Okay. Thank you for your response. Okay, the same question goes to you, Tajuddin. How do you intend to ensure that the voices and concerns of the student body are effectively represented and addressed in your role? You have 2 minutes, and that starts now.
As I mentioned, I would like to implement some sort of community forum where delegates or the entirety of certain student organizations can come and advocate for themselves. It's a current lack and huge flaw in the current AS system, which is supposed to represent student interests. And I feel that as if different cultural organizations, Greek organizations, cultural centers were able to send delegates to either meet with myself or other university administration at large, it would better enhance the campus environment, that holistic communication that we so often espouse in front of new students and parents, but we are not following through on. Not only that, but enhancing the Your Voice Matters program. It is disgraceful that we expect students to be able to truly contribute to bettering our campus through a Google form. There is no good system in place for us to address what's going on campus. There is no clear forum for students to report discrimination and harassment. I've had personal experiences with many things on this campus and I had no idea how to address them. Why did I not feel comfortable going to the EVP for that? Why did I not know that that was an option? Why didn't I know that AS could help me? And the answer is that it can't. That's why I'm here today, to better implement programs which can do that. That is the community forum. That is bettering the Your Voice Matters program through actually being able to come up and share. Nobody wants to drop a note in a box. They want to talk and complain, and they have that right as students whose tuition is being paid for all these AS services. Those are my proposals. Thank you for the question.
So our next question, all right. So our next question is going to be, how do you plan to address diversity and equity on campus? And Tajuddin, you can go first.
Thank you. My first proposed solution to addressing and getting more diversity on campus would be to enhance our diversity enrollment programs. There are a great many students in the San Diego County and community who are not being recruited to come to San Diego State. We have all these different multicultural and historically African-American or Latino communities, and we're not reaching out to them. We're not paying them to go to these different high schools and to go to Boys and Girls Clubs after school. Why aren't we putting money and time into reaching out to these communities? Why is the EOP program not sending more than one person to go travel to New Mexico and these other California adjacent places? If we're already hiking the tuition costs, why aren't we matching our efforts to reach students who can afford to and need to come here, who can be enrolled in Cal Grant? This is a huge issue today. So in the position of EVP, if I were to be elected, I would continue to advocate for the increase of funding to these diversity enrollment programs. Additionally, the interactions that the larger campus community has with our cultural centers and cultural communities is shameful. I work at the Black Resource Center. I see REO and Greek life once a year so they can check a box off. How do you think I feel as a minority student to see people talk to me about bridging the gap and all these other facetious terms when I only see them every so often? We need to do better in making sure that our campus communities are engaging and interacting with each other on a regular and to be honest, a weekly basis. Like, there should be things that people should be doing to interact with each other and make sure that these underrepresented communities are understood and heard. There should be campus sensitivity training, cultural sensitivity training for campus police and other measures taken in place so that these underrepresented or low income or minoritized or marginalized communities are they can understand that their needs are gonna be met by the university, or else how are we gonna get them to enroll in the first place? Thank you.
Thank you. And Joey, you're up next.
Yeah, so obviously this is a big problem on our campus, and I feel like the best way to solve this problem is to work with is to do external outreach, work with the VP of External and External Relations Board, all these different boards to actually see what the root cause is. Why has this been a problem for years and years and years? Go to lawmakers and explain this problem and how can we solve it. Go to these different communities on campus and just let them voice their opinion, what all the different issues that they're facing. And another thing is outreach, actually having conversation with high school students, like you were saying. Recently, Cardinal Interact Club from one of the local high schools in San Diego came, and it was like 60 students who are first generation, and Rotaract gave them a tour of SDSU. I'm a student in EOP, a part of GS, and I brought them to the EOP office, explained what EOP was. My advisor came out and explained all the different resources and opportunities that EOP and GS has to offer. And it was just 60 students that were sitting there that were like, oh, I never even thought I was gonna be able to attend college. And the exact same thing happened to me my senior year of high school. I never thought I was gonna attend college, and then I was actually reached out to via email through the head of the program, and that's the only reason I'm standing here today, being able to say all these things, being the position I am today. So yeah, outreach, meeting with lawmakers, trying to get to the root cause of all of this, and just really motivating high school students, especially first generation students, to attend college and know that we do have resources out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next question is gonna go for you, Joey, and the question is, collaboration is often key to achieving goals in student government. How do you plan to collaborate with existing campus organizations, faculty, and administration to implement your proposed initiatives effectively? Your 2 minutes, and it starts now.
Thank you. So obviously communication, collaboration, these are essential to being successful in whatever position you hold on campus. And the way I plan to do this, I mean, I currently sit on the A-Sub board, where it's an extremely well-run board. We approve budgets, we have people come and speak every single week, and seeing, okay, this is what you want, this is what we have, maybe we can't do that, maybe we can do this, and just trying to find that middle ground, trying to understand how we can work with all these students, and with administration, just being that voice in between students and administration. That's how. Thank you.
Thank you. The same question goes to you, Tajuddin. I will repeat it. Collaboration is often key to achieving goals in student government. How do you plan to collaborate with existing campus organizations, faculty, and administration to implement your proposed initiatives effectively? You have 2 minutes, and that starts now.
Sorry, could you repeat the last part of the question again?
Yeah. How do you plan to collaborate with existing campus organizations, faculty, and administration to implement your proposed initiatives effectively?
Thank you. As I said earlier, it is not as simple as having them meet me or me meeting them. Like, we need to create an intentional space for these conversations to happen, where not only they can speak to me, but as the students, my constituents and the university's constituents can speak directly and liaise with university administration in order to best work out the kinks in these programs. I have an idealized version of what SDSU and AS can look like, and I understand that there may be financial or actual constraints to the implementation of my proposed programming. The university needs to directly be able to tell me and students why that is not possible without just telling us, oh, we can't. We pay for this and we can advocate for them, and they need to know that these are the problems of the entirety of the student body, and that the implementation of these programs would not only increase student enrollment, but increase the holistic campus experience that we are dedicated to receiving at San Diego State. So by creating spaces for these conversations, and additionally making myself available for these communities to meet with me. Their student organizations, there are 350 student organizations at San Diego State University, along with many, many different facets of faculty and alumni that work at this school, and they each have a differing opinion. We need spaces, not just in person, but virtually, where these opinions can be facilitated and voiced. That seems like it would be a key proponent in the Your Voice Matters program, in which not only the voices of students, but professors and university administration can voice their concerns about what this campus can and should look like. Thank you.
Thank you two so much. That's going to conclude our questions for the both of you, and now we're going to move into questions individually. And we're going to be starting with Joey's, so you each have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Right, that's just Joey, so you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds for your questions. And we'll get started. So the first question is, in your statement, you stated your intention to optimize student engagement with AS. Could you elaborate on your strategies for achieving this goal?
Elaborate.
I could repeat it, yeah.
What did you say after elaborate?
Could you elaborate on your strategies and plan for this goal?
Could you elaborate?
Yeah. So for my strategies to make sure we increase student engagement with the AS, like I said before, this just comes down to other students knowing what AS is and knowing that even executive officers are still students. I have friends who talk to me, they're like, oh, Joey, like, how did you get involved in AS? They think it's like some like special organization or you need to know someone or have a foot in the door to get involved. I'm like, no, that's not what it is at all. Like, I stumbled in council chambers one day and it was flying. That's how I got involved in AS. It's really not that hard. So the way I want to do it is I want to utilize orientation. Like I said, this is the one event that every student basically has to attend. And I remember my orientation, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to college. This is going to be insane. This is going to be so much fun. And then, like, you have all that energy, and then bringing in execs or successful student leaders and explaining what AS is, how it can affect their whole college experience, everything it has to offer professionally, socially, all of that. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to let students know what AS is and bridge that gap that is currently there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joey. So the next question is, in your statement, you mentioned your intention to promote and expand mental health services. Can you elaborate on how your proposed resources will differ from those currently provided by SDSU, and what specific strategies you have in mind to expand the mental health resources available to students? You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and that starts now.
Yeah, so by that, I want to more promote the mental health resources, because if I go to the school and I say, hey, let's expand mental health resources, let's pour more money into it, let's do this, they're going to be like, but we haven't even maxed out what we currently have. We need to make sure that there's so many students using these resources that we know we have to expand them. So the way I want to expand them is just by voicing these resources that we have, going around doing walkarounds. I remember when I ran for Rec and Wellness last year, my big initiative was mental health, and I went around and I talked about all these different resources that are on campus, and I asked, raise your hand if you're having a mental health crisis. Would you know where to go? And maybe one hand raised out of a room of 150, 200 students. So like what I was saying earlier, having these conversations with students, it all comes down to actually interacting with these students, knowing that we are also students, that we are there for them, is how I want to voice mental health resources, which will eventually expand mental health resources. So thank you.
Can you elaborate on the specific mental health resources that you wanted to expand upon? How do you plan to make these resources more accessible and effective for students?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. I forgot to mention that. So mainly Counseling and Psychological Center. This is a resource on campus that has therapists. It has counselors that are free for students to use. It's something that I use every week. I started using over summer, and I didn't even know that this was an available resource either until I started using it and I actually reached out. So I want to explain my story, the mental health resources I use on campus, and just voice that to other students so that they also know that these are there. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is, in your statement, it states that you have gained a profound understanding of how to effectively engage students with campus life. Could you provide examples of specific strategies or initiatives you have implemented in the past that demonstrate this understanding, and how do you plan to further enhance student engagement if elected? You have 2 minutes and 30, and that starts now.
Thank you for that question. So one of the events I hosted last semester was Harmony Haven. It was one of the most attended Aztec Student Union Board events in history. It had over 400 attendees, and what this event was it was basically a de-stress event. We had masseuses, there was journaling, there was those little sandboxes with the rocks that we all love to play with. And the reason I planned that event was because I was just sitting in the union and I would just ask people, okay, like what's something that you want to see, what's something that you want to see? And a lot of people said, something that's mental health related, something that we can go to and just relax, like use this money to give back to the students. So I planned that event and it had so many people. And even at that event, I was just standing there because I volunteer for all my events, and I was standing there and I would overhear students saying, wow, this is such an amazing event. SDSU should host more events like this. So creating that platform, having students, maybe making a Google form, sending out to students, seeing what events they like, what events they don't like, and reflecting why certain events don't get as many attendees as others do. That's exactly how we can effectively plan more events that will engage more students on campus. Thank you.
My next question is, what everyday experiences and leadership do you have that you think could apply to your position as EVP besides in clubs?
Thank you. So, like I mentioned before, Aztec Student Union Board. So currently, Aztec Student Union Board, I plan events, I hold my own committee meetings, we approve budgets, we do all this. We have our weekly ASUB meetings. So that's a part of CLC, and what Executive Vice President chairs CLC. So it's basically doing my current role right now, just at more of an advisory role. And now that I've gained really good understanding of campus events and how to engage students on campus, I feel like that makes me very qualified for this role. Secondly, VP of Social for Rotaract. This is another position that I currently hold that's very similar to my ASUP position. We plan bi-weekly social meetings. I sit down with Kareen, shout out Kareen, and we just sit down, we plan events, and we're like, okay, we look at the calendar, we're like, all right, Valentine's Day is coming up, let's plan a Valentine's Day event. And then on top of this, we have retreat. This is another thing that Executive Vice President does. They plan beginning of the year retreat. Actually, they plan a retreat each semester. Beginning of the year, it's much bigger than second semester, but that doesn't matter. So I have very good experience with planning retreat, what it takes to plan effective retreats, and lastly, collaborating with students. 2 weekends ago, I had the great opportunity to attend chess, where I lobbied a bunch of bills and advocated for tons of students, so I know how to listen to students and how to bring those ideas to administration and policymakers and really advocate for those students. And that's what makes me qualified for this role. Thank you.
So much, Joey. Thank you so much. So this will be the last question. Your statement mentions optimizing student engagement with associated students through orientation. Can you elaborate on your proposed strategies to provide clear pathways to involvement for first-year and transfer students during orientation? You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and that starts now.
Thank you for that question. So, I wouldn't say all, but majority of orientation, a lot of it is informational. It's a lot of, you're getting a bunch of information thrown at you. You obviously can't absorb it all. And I want to create more of that human feel to it. I want to explain to these students, hey, this is what I experienced. Freshman year, I didn't really feel heard. I didn't really feel involved on campus, and that had a toll on my mental health. And I was like even thinking about transferring and stuff. So explaining to students that this is what I felt and this is how the path I took to solve this problem, getting involved on campus. And then on top of that, one of our big initiatives is to make a centralized calendar for all RSOs so that students, they can go into this calendar and see every single club meeting, every single organization meeting, and then see which ones align with their goals, their interests, their identity, and then they could show up to those meetings. They can network, they can meet people, they can join other clubs through this. So this way, freshmen and transfer students, they can get to this campus and immediately get involved and immediately make an impact and make their voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's going to be the last question for Joey. And now we're going to move on to individual questions for Tajuddin. So same as with Joey's questions, you're going to have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And our first question is that you mentioned a commitment to creating a AAA experience for students centered around access, advocating, and achievement. Can you provide specific examples of initiatives or policies that you propose to increase access to these resources for students?
Yes, thank you for the question. So one of the key points that I would like to address during my tenure as EVP, if elected, is that there is a cultural feeling of lack of accessibility to what AS is. So I mentioned it several times today, the increase of social media presence, the implementation of a texting system, which we have, which is very rudimentary, but to inform students about what's going on in AS. As Joey mentioned, orientation is a prime time to access students at their beginning stages of their journey in San Diego State University, when they're coming to learn so much about the school, but not how AS has contributed to it. I couldn't name one person, like if I called one person that's walking, they wouldn't be able to tell me that AS helped fund the bike lanes, or that they helped run the ARC, or the Aquaplex, or the Mission Bay Aquatic Center, or the things that they have done to make sure that this campus is sustainable and beautiful. Like the things that we see before us here today, a lot of it is funded by AS or was put into place by AS representatives. People who worked in AS helped create the Black Resource Center, and I could tell you that not a lot of Black students know that, or that the CIR is the old. I would propose not only that AS would create an impact report each year for the things that they've done for this campus to increase sustainability, student enrollment and diversity, and the creation of funding and success outcomes for graduating or junior or senior students, but that we inform students on a regular basis, and that increase of knowledge in the student body is the accessibility. The more that they know about AS, the easier it is to walk into these spaces and realize that it is not daunting, that we are regular students trying to promote things for the betterment of the entirety of the student body. Additionally, some of the other programs that I suggested be created were the incentivization of AS positions. One of the current barriers, I believe, to getting involved in AS is a lack of monetary or otherwise compensation. It is a lot of volunteer work, and while that might seem beautiful to some of us who have time to give, those students, especially lower income students who have to work to provide for themselves, or might be more worried about food and somewhere to sleep than getting to sit on Lobby Corps or Aztec Achievement Awards, that needs to change. We need to see what we can do to talk to university and professors to see if they can be granted a professional certificate. Can they be given credits or credits counted towards the leadership certificate or the leadership minor or leadership major? What can they be done to be given time towards their resume or professional skills? Like, we need to do more to make sure that AS is truly worth it. That is the experience that we are telling people that it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tajudeen. So the next question is, what strategies do you plan to implement to enhance access to resources and opportunities for students?
Thank you.
Okay. What strategies do you plan to
What strategies do I plan to implement to
enhance access to resources and opportunities, and how will we ensure that students are knowledgeable about these resources? You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and that starts now.
I'm really sorry to ask. Could you repeat the question one more time?
That's messed up, Taj.
No worries. What strategies do you plan to implement to enhance access to resources and opportunities for students, and how will you ensure that students are knowledgeable about these resources?
I really feel like I just touched on these same points, but AS needs to be seen. We need to be meeting these communities where they're at. We don't need to just be in the dormitories for a rock the vote. We need to be there on a regular basis, telling them what AS is, the importance of it. RA should be facilitating students and learning communities going to these AS meetings to gain this experience. Again, the increased technological access to AS, so the implementation of systems where students can easily see what's going on in AS online, on Instagram. Why isn't every AS committee promoting a consistent social media channel to students? This is the same problem that we've been facing, is that AS isn't willing to modernize its practices in order to address the modern student body. So again, orientation, social media, text, meeting students where they're at and creating these shared spaces where students can meet us in the Turtle Pond and meet us by Hepner and in front of the student union on a weekly or semi-weekly basis in order to know that we exist and that we are here for them. That is how I propose that students are knowledgeable of the resources that we're trying to bring to them. We need to do more than just table and send them to the 3rd floor. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. So my next, okay. My next question is, what makes you stand out as a candidate? What makes you stand apart, whether it be personality or experience-wise?
Thank you. I would like to start by saying that despite my involvement in various student organizations, I do not think that makes me special. Every single person, including the person standing right next to me, in this crowd is involved. They have these qualifications to their name. They work multiple jobs. They have internships and research and titles, but all that is not special. It just is the mark of the type of students SDSU brings in on a yearly basis. What I think sets me apart and makes me special is my ability to care and give. That is the thing that I've done from my first day here and would continue to do so given my election to this position. I care deeply for the student body and would be willing to commit many hours to this position, and not only that, but to ensure that these students' needs are being addressed and met wherever they're at. I'm willing to dedicate, well, other than school, every single waking moment I have to addressing the promises that I made today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My next question is, advocating for equitability among SDSU's communities and student organizations is a crucial aspect of your mission. How do you plan to advocate for equity, and what steps will you take to ensure fair and inclusive representation for all student groups? You have 2 minutes and 30, and that starts now.
Thank you so much. Again, the community forum. The university doesn't truly know what students need because their voices are not able to reach that high. We need to elevate students and student organizations to the point where they're able to meet with administration and voice this themselves. I am merely a mouthpiece for the thousands of students that have issues with what's going on campus. I am not a figurehead. I am the student. I am everyone in this crowd's ability to reach up to CB and other university administration in order to advocate for them. Could you please repeat the question? I feel like I'm missing part of the answer.
Oh, okay. The question was, give me 1 second. Advocating for equitability among SDSU's communities and student organizations is a crucial aspect of your mission. How do you plan to advocate for equity, and what steps will you take to ensure fair and inclusive representation for all student groups?
I think I answered it all, actually. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. So we're coming to the end of your questions. How do you plan to How do you plan to translate your commitment and positive experience for students into actionable initiatives that actively express the diverse needs and aspirations of the student body?
Could you repeat the question?
How do you plan to translate your commitment and your positive experience with students into actionable initiatives that will effectively address their diverse needs and aspirations?
As I said, not only am I a member of many of the communities that need this help that I'm proposing, I will have a direct liaise with many of the university administration that will be able to tell me whether or not these programs will be able to be implemented. Ensuring that the communities that I am trying to reach out to have a voice at the table. So going to these minoritized communities, going to Southeast San Diego, and going down in Tijuana in order to get these students that are closer to the border and everywhere all across San Diego County are able to send someone to speak to us about how we can best reach their communities, how we as a university, even though I am merely a young man, I would be representing the entirety of the 35,000 student body and their ability to reach these communities in those moments. So ensuring that they have a voice to the table. How can we best reach them? How can EOP better serve them despite an email? What can we do? So ensuring that they're able to tell me what we can do is my promise that I would make and follow through on and best ensure that their voices are heard in these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer. This will be the last question for you. In your statement, you mentioned that you aim to create a holistic experience for students. How do you plan to translate this mission of creating a holistic experience for students and campus into tangible initiatives and programs that address the diverse and interests of the student body?
I think I got most of it. Ensuring that the student body, again, is able to voice to me their concerns. I can only know and do so much. My position is not to be able to tell the students what they need, but for them to tell me what they need, and for me to be able to tell that to university admin. To be able to turn those into programming, I first need to be able to address these communities, and I can do that through these intentional conversational spaces in which they communicate to me, and I turn that into policy. I will help turn that into paperwork, turn that into legislature for the university to follow through for years to come. Additionally, there are things that I did not mention earlier which prevent students from having a holistic campus experience. Our university has a huge problem with Title IX and mental health issues, and we are doing nothing to address it in a meaningful way. These services are there, but they are not meeting students, and they're not able to address students' needs when they come up. I myself have been a victim of the lack of accessibility of these resources. I still haven't got a call back from counseling and psych services from 3 months ago. Title IX has never been able to get back to me in a meaningful way, and I have no way of knowing these persons are mandated reporters or otherwise. How is campus police supposed to help me when I've never seen them? Those are some of the things that I would like to implement. Why aren't the resources that we so espouse and put millions of dollars to on a yearly basis not here for us? Why aren't these students aware that these resources exist? So not only is it about ensuring that these students' communities' voices are heard and represented at the table, but that these services that we're telling them to come to are meeting them where they're at. Thank you. Love you too, Mohammed.
Thank you guys so much. That'll be the end of the individual questions. And we're getting close to the closing statements. But first I wanted to ask you both a question. The question is, where do you think, okay, just making sure. The question is, where do you think AS is currently not strong and not meeting the goals that it should be meeting, and how do you think it can be improved if you were EVP? And first we'll have Joey, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. I feel like I've answered this pretty well already, but I mean, AS by itself, it runs really well. People involved are very dedicated. But like I said earlier, it's just increasing engagement with more students on campus, utilizing orientation, making AS more centralized, making it easier, more accessible, easier to get involved in. That's really where I see AS lacking right now, and that's where I want to improve it. So thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll be moving on to Tajuddin.
The question was, what's something that is bad with the AS culture at the moment, or something that we would change?
Or somewhere that you believe AS could improve.
Okay, thank you. I currently believe that the ability to enact change is something that drew me to AS initially, but after being involved in it, I've seen how short-sighted, bureaucratic, and difficult to enact the very change we are so proud of having created in the past is on some of these committees and councils. That is the one thing I would try to focus on. Why are we afraid? Why can't we change it? Why is always the question that I've asked when it's come to why things are the way they are now and why can't we change them. If money isn't a concern, what else is holding us back from making a difference in these students and the campus's life as a whole? So that has been my biggest issue with AS so far, and something that I would hope to change about the culture of associated students if elected. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for answering that question. And now we'll be moving on to the closing statements. So you're going to have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to just close out your goals, what you want to enact as AS Vice President, and why people should be voting for you. So to begin, we'll start with Joey.
Thank you for that. So yeah, once again, my biggest initiatives are mental health, continuing to voice and expand mental health resources, making AS more centralized, helping students with knowing how to get involved, where to get involved, utilizing orientation, all that good stuff. Could you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
the question basically was, it was your closing statement. So if you were to sum up your goals and what sets you apart, tell us why people should vote for you.
So yeah, with those goals being said, I've had a lot of tangible experience on campus with ASUB, VP of Social, working all year, planning events, really increasing campus engagement with some of the highest attended ASUB events in school history. I know how to appeal to students. I'm extremely outgoing. I'll talk to every student. I'll be vulnerable. I'll explain my story. I'll really increase engagement from the general student with AS, and that's very important because right now it feels like it's such a small community on campus that is a part of AS, and it doesn't accurately reflect SDSU. So getting more students involved that are first year, that are transfer, that are from underrepresented communities, it's very important, and that's what I want to do. Thank you. Vote Blueprint SDSU.
Much. And to repeat for Tajuddin, you're going to be giving your closing statement. What are your goals, your initiatives, and why should people be voting for you? And you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. So again, I'm Tajuddin Kamal Henry. I'm a sophomore student here at San Diego State University, majoring in public health and African American studies. And the biggest thing that marks not only my academic but future professional career is that I care, and I've brought that into every single space that I've entered since coming to campus. My goals include incentivizing AS involvement, not only making the experience for current AS leaders much better and more worth it, but to ensure that students have access and knowledge of these resources, and that their experience in AS ensures that their success outcomes at this university are different, that their GPA is higher than the next student, that they're receiving the jobs that they deserve through all the work that they put into this organization. Increasing the AS's social media and technological presence, increasing the amount of community forums and spaces there are for minoritized, underrepresented communities to voice their concerns and desires for what to do at the campus. Additionally, increasing new student orientation and support programs, financial literacy, technological literacy, the ability to learn to be sustainable on campus. Something that's included in all of our rents on dormitories is our utilities, our water, our power. We need to be educating new students, especially those from low-income communities who have not had familiarity with these practices, to be introduced to them through the university. What are we here for? If we are putting students in front of a box and expecting them to not put a square into a circle hole, what are we doing here? Well, why aren't we helping these students better be acclimated to university? Not only do I want to do those things, but I would say my biggest reason that people should vote for me is because, as I said, I care. I will deliver on the promises that I've given today. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Together we rise. Woo! Okay, that was weak. We're gonna do that again. Together we rise. Woo!
Thank you so much. That was the end of your concluding statements. I'm Katarina Portella, and
I'm Jen.
and it's been lovely moderating for you too. Thank you so much for coming out today and giving your speeches for the student body, and we wish you the best with the upcoming election.
I'd like to say thank you guys so much for your moderation, and thank you to Joey for being a wonderful debate partner.
I'd like to reciprocate.
Turned his mic off. He said thank you.
I'd like to reciprocate that.
Thank you everyone who came out today. We appreciate you.